Okay, so this is going to be my Penn State Illinois preview and prediction. So Penn State and Illinois are going to take the field today at 5:30. Currently, Penn State's about a 15-point favorite. I think it was 14 and a half. It's at Beaver Stadium. Not really much of an impact at all. There's really no fans at the game anyway. Nobody. Penn State's 3-5. Illinois is 2-5. Illinois had a game canceled against Ohio State. Most likely, they would have lost that game, and they'd be 2-6. Illinois has just recently fired their coach, Lovie Smith. They've hired Brett Bielema, a former coach at Wisconsin. He'd had a lot of success there, not as much success at Arkansas. Doesn't really mean anything for today's game because he's not coaching today. He's going to be the coach next year, but he will be at the game, so it's something interesting. Illinois, there might be a little bit of lack of motivation because Lovie Smith's not coaching, but overall, I think Illinois is going to come out and they're going to play a hard game. I think the temperature is going to be a little cold, no snow, no anything bad like that. But it's going to be a game I think is going to be on the ground a lot for both teams. I think, especially Illinois because Illinois doesn't pass the ball much to begin with. They are second in the Big Ten in rushing. They're probably like last in the Big Ten in passing. They don't really pass much. Their best receivers also out for today as well. So I think the big thing for Penn State is can Penn State stop Illinois' run game? Penn State should be able to handle them in the pass, but if Illinois is able to get a consistent run game going, they might be able to go to the pass, and they may be able to make plays, especially if Penn State's playing soft coverage and things like that. So Illinois' defense, I think they're allowing over 450 yards a game. They got shredded by Northwestern last week in the run game. Northwestern's run game has been fairly bad. Illinois' run defense, it's been bad. I think Penn State should have some success us establishing that run game with the offensive line, be able to get Kevon Lee going, get into a rhythm. Also, maybe have Clifford and Levis do some runs as well. Ford's playing, and then you got Keziah Holmes in there as well. But I think Penn State can get going in the pass as well with guys like Dotson and Washington. I think they have an opportunity to come out today and get this win. I think on paper Penn State's the better team, but Penn State's got to be able to hold on to the ball. They can't be, and they got to finish drives. Last week against Michigan State, I felt like they did a much better job finishing drives, and they were able to get some bigger plays in the second half, really step up. But Penn State, they've looked a lot better these last three games. They haven't had a lot of turnovers. They haven't beat themselves, which is big because they beat themselves against Indiana, Nebraska, and Maryland, those kinds of games. Even Iowa should have been a much closer game had they not had all the turnovers. Um, and I think that if Penn State can come out and not beat themselves, I think they should win this game. If the turnover margin's bet even, Penn State should win. But Penn State needs to come out and they need to be able to finish some drives in the red zone. They need to be able to do things like that because Penn State's really not an explosive team. I know last week they had some bigger plays. Clifford's looked pretty good. The offensive lines look pretty good. Penn State's playing better. Illinois isn't great, but they're not a horrible team, okay? They did beat Nebraska pretty good, and they beat Rutgers by 3. Now, they gave Iowa a pretty competitive game. They only lost by 14, and Iowa's pretty solid. I don't think Iowa's great, but they're pretty solid. They got blown out by Wisconsin when Wisconsin was still good. I don't know what happened to Wisconsin. They were playing insane. Now they're playing not good, like bad. Like the offense is like they forgot to play off how to play offense basically. They lost to Minnesota bad. That wasn't a good performance. And then they lost to Purdue by 7. So I think Penn State's a more talented team, obviously. I was surprised about how many guys Penn State actually got on to the all conference team. But this is a game where Penn State can win. They can get to 4-5. They're probably going to play in a bowl game. The only Big Ten teams that would be ahead of them in the bowl selection would be obviously Ohio State. They're going to go to the playoff. Iowa would be ahead of them. Indiana will be ahead of them. Northwestern will be ahead of them. And probably the winner of Wisconsin or Minnesota. But in the pecking order, they could be the fifth or sixth best team. Because even if Maryland wins and gets to 3-3, Penn State at 4-5 versus Maryland at 3-3, Penn State's probably going to get the nod because they're a bigger brand, they got a bigger audience, they're a bigger program. So Penn State should go to a bowl if they win. If they lose, I guess there's still a chance. Um, but it's an opportunity for Penn State to get four in a row and really be able to continue that quest for a 500 season after the horrible 0-5 start, and be able to continue to get some momentum heading into next year. What I think is going to happen is I think Penn State's going to be able to come out. I think they're going to be able to make some plays in the pass game. I think they're going to be able to run on Illinois as well, but I think it's going to be kind of a grinded out, kind of blue collar kind of run game. It's not going to be an explosive run game. I just don't think Penn State has those kinds of guys. I think Penn State's going to be able to put some points up on Illinois. I think if they can finish some drives, I think they can really start to pack it on. If Penn State can stop that Illinois run game and make them pass and have some success with that, also with getting some pressure on whoever their quarterback is, they don't really have that figured out. They should be able to blow Illinois out. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen because I do think Illinois is going to be able to run the ball fairly well, but I think Penn State's going to eventually kind of crack in on the one-dimensional Illinois offense, or what it at least appears to be. And I think Penn State just has more talent on the team. I'm going to pick Penn State to win. I think picking Penn State to cover might be a smart pick, but there's still some issues with Penn State that I think you have to be aware of. The fact that they haven't been able to consistently put up a lot of points, and their red zone performance has been bad, and the defense hasn't always been great either. So I don't have quite enough confidence to pick Penn State to cover that 2-touchdown spread, but I am going to pick them to win the game. I'm thinking probably like a 31-20 type game. I think Illinois' offense has actually been pretty good. I just don't think their defense is that good. I think Penn State's going to be able to win. I think they're going to be able to get enough out of it, but I don't have enough confidence to pick them to blow them out. I'm going to go Penn State 31-20. Let's hope it happens, but let's hope Penn State actually wins by more, just not lose the game. So 31-20, that's my pick. Peace out.